I'm sorry I didn't show, the hotel coordinator whispered, glancing at the two empty seats in the front row. I nodded, swallowing hard. My groom, Tyler, his hand never left mine, but his jaw was tight. He'd seen it too. Everyone had. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Those seats weren't just empty, they were loudly empty, reserved with Mother of the Bride and Father of the Bride in golden script. I had even picked the flowers next to them myself. But they never came. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a vague excuse. They just vanished on the one day they knew I'd been dreaming of since I was a little girl. The guests clapped when we kissed. I smiled. But inside, something cracked. I'd paid off their mortgage for the last 5 years. Quietly. Faithfully. While they used my money to redo their kitchen, take cruises, and buy matching SUVs. They never even said thank you. At the reception, while everyone was dancing and laughing, I slipped outside. My phone was already in my hand. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. Then I called Dad. He picked up. Dad, I said, trying to keep the quiver out of my voice. You didn't come. Why? There was a pause. Then he scoffed. Claire, he said flatly, we were embarrassed by you. My stomach dropped. What? He continued like it was no big deal. You married a mechanic. You wore a second-hand dress. Your wedding was at a hotel. What were we supposed to tell our friends? I went quiet. My nails dug into my palm. Anyway, he added, your brother got us tickets to the golf tournament. It was a better use of time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply said, thank you for letting me know. And I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. Tyler held me, confused and furious, but I couldn't speak. I just stared at the ceiling, heart racing. I thought of every wire transfer, every bill I paid under their name, every time they bragged to others about their good fortune while calling me too emotional when I just wanted to feel seen. And I made a decision. 2 days later, I called the bank. Then the landlord. Then the property manager. The house was in my name. The lease was under me. The mortgage was covered by me. And I was done pretending that buying love worked. I removed my name, cut the payments, handed everything back. Later that evening, my mom finally called. Her voice shook. Claire, the landlord just called. He said the mortgage is not being paid this month? That your name's gone. I answered calmly, standing in my own kitchen, in our one-bedroom rental, with dishes drying in the rack behind me. I know, I said. I removed it. She was silent. Then she gasped, but we, Claire, we'll lose the house. That's your family home. I bit my lip, my voice steady. You were embarrassed by me, remember? Don't be dramatic, she snapped. You missed my wedding, I said slowly, on purpose. You chose golf and image over your daughter. You're being petty. I took a deep breath. No. I'm being done. And I hung up. But it was just beginning. By the next morning, the chaos had already begun. I was pouring coffee in our tiny kitchen when Tyler peeked through the blinds and said, there's a black SUV outside. And someone's knocking. Hard. I didn't need to look. I already knew. Sure enough, when I opened the door, there they were, Mom and Dad, standing on my porch like nothing had happened. My mom looked furious. My dad wore that fake, I'm just concerned face he used to pull when I didn't do exactly what he wanted. Claire, Mom snapped. What the hell is going on? We got a letter from the bank. It says the payments have stopped and the property is no longer under your name. I sipped my coffee. Correct. Dad stepped forward. You're joking, right? You didn't really cancel the payments. You wouldn't do that to us. To the people who didn't show up to their only daughter's wedding? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I absolutely would. Mom crossed her arms. So you're going to punish us? For one decision? One. I laughed softly. You mean after 5 years of using me like a walking ATM? After humiliating me every time I visited because I wasn't as successful as Jacob, after making me feel like I was just inconvenient. Dad flinched. Don't bring your brother into this. Why not? I shot back. He hasn't worked a day in 5 years, and yet somehow you call him the golden child? Meanwhile, I've been the one quietly covering the bills, including his phone plan. You didn't even know that, did you? They both went quiet. I leaned against the doorframe. I needed you. Once. I didn't ask you to pay for the wedding. I didn't expect a gift. I just wanted you there. To sit. To clap. To smile. And you couldn't even do that. Mom's voice dropped. You embarrassed us, Claire. You married beneath you. I blinked. No, Mom. I married someone who shows up, who chooses me every single day, who would never shame me for not being perfect. That's not beneath me. That's above all the nonsense you raised me in. Dad's jaw clenched. So, you're really cutting us off? Financially? I already have, I said simply. You're going to regret this. I tilted my head. I regret trusting you this long. And then I stepped back and closed the door. Calm. Unshaken. Finally free. By that weekend, word had spread through the extended family like wildfire. Aunt Denise called to check in. Cousin Mark sent a weirdly vague text about family being complicated. Even my grandmother, who rarely left a recliner, called to say, "Sweetheart, I don't know what they did, but I'm proud of you for standing your ground." The bomb had dropped, but the fallout hadn't even started. That Sunday, Tyler and I were at the farmer's market when I got another call, this time from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. It was Jacob. "Claire," he started, "I know we haven't always gotten along, but Mom and Dad, they're freaking out. They're talking about selling the house, moving in with me. Can you please fix this?" I blinked, actually laughing. "You want me to fix this?" "They're scared," he said. "They keep saying they never thought you'd go through with it." "That's the problem, Jacob," I said. "They never thought I'd stand up for myself. They always assumed I'd just take it." "I get it," he muttered. "But you could have at least warned them. This is harsh." "No, Jacob. What's harsh is skipping your daughter's wedding. What's harsh is calling your child an embarrassment. What's harsh is expecting someone to carry you and then spitting in their face." He went silent. I softened just slightly. I didn't do this to destroy them. I did this to save myself. And I meant it. For the first time in years, I could breathe. No more guilt. No more late-night transfers. No more fake smiles. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was finally my own. And I had no intention of going back. 3 days passed without a word. It was peaceful. Eerily so. No guilt-tripping texts. No sudden demands for money. No calls asking why their Netflix wasn't working, on my account, by the way. Just silence. But I knew my parents too well. That silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. Sure enough, Thursday afternoon, while Tyler and I were grabbing groceries, my phone buzzed. A notification. Eviction notice filed, 30 days to vacate. They hadn't even waited 2 full weeks before missing the first payment. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then quietly turned it off. "They're not going to make it," I said to Tyler. He looked at me, gently setting down a carton of eggs. "Claire, are you okay?" I met his eyes. I thought I'd feel cruel, but I don't. I feel relieved. He pulled me in, right there between the cereal aisle and the dairy section, and whispered, "You did what you had to do. They made their choice. Now you made yours." But the world wasn't going to let me move on that easily. By Friday, I was the family villain. My cousin posted a passive-aggressive Facebook status. Crazy how people forget who raised them once they get a ring. Aunt Denise left a voicemail saying, "Family is about forgiveness, Claire. You don't just walk away." And then came the message from my mother. It wasn't a call, not a voicemail, just a photo. A picture of the house with a "for sale by owner" sign stabbed into the front yard like a dagger. No caption, just silence. Like I was supposed to fall apart at the sight of it. But instead, I stared at it and whispered, "Good." Because that house was never a home. It was a place I was reminded over and over that I was never enough. That love came with conditions. That if I wasn't useful, I wasn't wanted. Let someone else live in those walls now. Someone who didn't tuck their dreams behind bills for people who couldn't even clap at their daughter's vows. Still, part of me wondered if they'd show up again. Beg. Apologize. Try to twist things like they always had. But what happened next? I never saw coming. On Monday morning, a letter arrived. A real, physical letter. Handwritten. My dad's signature at the bottom. It started polite enough. Then it turned cold. He wrote, "You humiliated your mother. You turned our family against us. You left us to drown when all we ever did was love you. But don't worry. We'll be out of your life permanently. We won't ask you for anything ever again. You've made yourself clear. Enjoy your new life. Just don't come running back when it all falls apart." I held the paper in my hand for a long time. Tyler sat beside me. "You okay?" "I think I finally got what I always wanted," I whispered. "What's that?" A clear answer. Because my whole life, I chased their approval, their attention, their presence. Now I had clarity. They didn't want me, they wanted control. And when they couldn't have it, they walked. That's not love. That's ownership. That evening, I pulled up the bank app and closed the joint savings account I'd once created for family emergencies. I blocked their numbers. I removed my last auto payment tied to their address. It was over. Truly over. And for the first time since that wedding, I smiled for real. Because I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't ashamed. I was finally free from being someone's backup plan. And my silence was the loudest goodbye they'd ever hear. It had been 4 weeks since I cut the final tie. 4 weeks since I stopped answering calls, replying to messages, or checking mutual family group chats that had turned into war zones of opinions, judgment, and selective sympathy. I didn't care anymore. Let them call me cold. Let them say I changed. Because the truth was I had changed. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself, not for people who only remembered me when they needed something. Tyler noticed it too. "You seem lighter," he said one morning as we sat on the balcony sipping coffee. I smiled. "It's weird, isn't it? You spend your whole life trying to make certain people proud, and the moment you stop trying, you finally start breathing." He reached over and squeezed my hand. "Proud doesn't mean loved. And you deserve both." That line stayed with me all day. Proud doesn't mean loved. And they were never proud of me. Not when I got into college on a scholarship. Not when I picked up 2 jobs to pay their overdue bills. Not when I opened my first business, a small floral shop that brought me peace but not prestige. All they cared about was how it looked. And, according to them, I never looked good enough. But now, something was shifting. Not just inside me, but around me. Because their world was starting to crumble. The eviction notice on their house had turned real. No payments meant no mercy from the bank. The house I had once kept afloat, the house they'd celebrated like a trophy, was being auctioned off. It was the same house where they told me I wasn't marriage material. The same house where they threw a lavish engagement party for my brother and his now ex-girlfriend, just 2 weeks after skipping my wedding. It was poetic, really. Karma, quiet and sharp. But the final twist? I didn't find out from them. I found out from the landlord, a man I barely knew but who called me out of courtesy because, apparently, my name had still been listed on a second insurance document. "Claire, I know you removed yourself from the deed," he said kindly, "but they're being removed from the property this Friday. I thought you should know." I paused. "Is everything being repossessed?" "Pretty much. And, Claire," he hesitated, "your mom, she cried when she realized they had nowhere to go. She kept saying she thought you'd never actually let it go this far." I stayed quiet. "She really believed you'd bail them out." I sighed, almost bitterly. That's what they always believed. That no matter how they treated me, I'd always come running. And then he said something that stunned me. "She asked me for your address." My blood went cold. "She what?" "She said she just wanted to talk." I didn't give it to her. That didn't feel right. "Thank you." I breathed, my voice tight. We hung up, but she didn't need my address. Because 2 days later, I walked out of the shop just after closing time, and there she was, standing across the street. My mother, hair disheveled, dressed in the same designer coat I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago, now worn and creased. She looked older, smaller, and for the first time in my life unsure. I could have turned back into the store. I could have walked away, but I didn't. I stepped forward, slowly, until I was a few feet from her. She blinked like she didn't expect me to approach. "Claire," she started, voice trembling. I didn't answer. "I didn't come to beg," she said softly. I wanted to understand." I raised an eyebrow. "Why you let it happen," she whispered. "Why you let us fall like this? Why you didn't stop it?" My chest tightened, but I kept my voice calm. "You missed my wedding," I said. She winced. "You humiliated me." "I was wrong," she choked out. "We were wrong. We were proud, arrogant. We thought you'd always be there, that you needed us more than we needed you." I looked her dead in the eye. "But you never needed me. You just needed what I could do for you." Her lips quivered. "Do we really deserve this?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, you do. Because you knew exactly what you were doing. You made me feel like an outsider in my own family. You called me embarrassing for loving someone you couldn't control. You made me feel less than for not being flashy or rich or perfect." She didn't speak. "You didn't love me," I continued. "You loved what I provided. The money, the cover, the fake smiles at family gatherings, the image." She finally looked away. I exhaled. "And now, I've stopped providing." We stood in silence. Then she whispered, "Where will we go?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But it's not my job to figure that out anymore." Her eyes filled, but I didn't reach for her. I didn't comfort her. Because for years, I was the daughter who gave and gave until there was nothing left. And this time I chose me. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. She didn't scream. She just stood there, finally facing the consequences of years of silent cruelty. That night, Tyler and I sat on the balcony again. The stars were out. He asked, "Did you get closure?" I thought for a moment. "No," I said. "But I got clarity." "Same thing." I smiled softly. "No, but it's enough." He wrapped his arm around me as the breeze picked up. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free.